The night the cameras saw someone who wasn't there. It was supposed to be just another quiet night shift. K. Back then, I was working inside a highly secured military facility. During the day, the place was full of life. Officers walking around, systems running, constant movement. But at night, it was completely different. BK silent, empty, almost abandoned. That night, there were only 3 of us inside the entire building. Me, my supervisor, and one other guy. The facility itself was massive. Multiple layers of security, locked doors, restricted access zones. There was no way anyone could just walk in. You needed clearance, badges, codes, everything. Which is why what happened that night still doesn't make sense. It was sometime after midnight when things started to feel off. We were sitting in the operations room, watching the security monitors. There were dozens of cameras across the building, and the system would cycle through them automatically, each feed showing for a few seconds before switching to the next. Everything looked normal. Until the phone rang. It was the entry control point. One of the guards reported that motion sensors had been triggered inside one of the equipment rooms. Now that was strange, because those rooms were sealed for the night. No one was supposed to be in there. My supervisor looked at me, and without saying much, told me to go check it out. I didn't think much of it at first. Probably a system glitch, or maybe a small animal somehow got inside. At least, that's what I told myself. The walk to the equipment room felt longer than usual. The hallways were empty. My footsteps echoed slightly against the walls. The kind of silence that makes you aware of every little sound. When I finally reached the door, I paused for a second. Then I unlocked it and stepped inside. The room was exactly how it should be. Quiet, still, empty. No movement, no sound, nothing out of place. I walked around slowly, checking corners, looking behind equipment, but there was nothing. So I picked up the phone inside the room and called my supervisor. "Yeah, there's nothing here," I told him. "Everything looks normal." Then, just to be sure, I called the guards at the entry control point. I asked them, "Can you see me on the camera?" There was a short pause on the other end, and then one of them said something that made my stomach drop. "We see you." Another pause. Then he added, "But you're not alone." For a moment, I thought I misheard him. "What do you mean?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. There was another pause, like he was trying to focus. Then he said, "There's someone standing behind you." My heart started racing instantly. I didn't turn around, not yet. Instead, I looked straight at the camera in the corner of the room, trying to stay calm. "Where exactly?" I asked. "Behind you, slightly to your right," he replied. I swallowed hard. "Can you describe him?" The answer came slowly. "Tall, around 6 feet. Looks like he's wearing some kind of uniform." That didn't make sense. No one else was supposed to be inside, and definitely not wearing that kind of gear. Finally, I gathered the courage and turned around. There was nothing there, just empty space. "Are you sure?" I asked, my voice now slightly shaking. "Yeah," the guard said. "He's still there, right behind you." At that point, I felt a chill run down my spine, because I was staring directly at the spot he was describing, and there was absolutely no one. I immediately called my supervisor. "Tune camera Deka?" I asked him quickly. There was a few seconds of silence. Then he said something I'll never forget. "Who the hell is standing behind you?" That was it. I didn't wait another second. I ran out of that room as fast as I could and locked the heavy door behind me. When I got back to the operations room, I expected someone to start laughing, to tell me it was all a prank. But no one was laughing. My supervisor looked serious, and within minutes, security forces were already on their way. Armed personnel arrived and began clearing the entire facility, room by room, floor by floor. At first, nothing unusual was found, but then the alarm started going off again. Not just one, not two, dozens. Motion sensors all across the building began triggering at the same time. Different rooms, different areas, places that were completely sealed. It was like something was moving through the building, fast. The strange part? These weren't normal sensors. They were designed to ignore small movements, like insects or minor disturbances. To trigger them, you needed something big, something human-sized. The search continued for over an hour. Every room was checked, every corridor cleared. But they didn't find anything. No intruder, no signs of forced entry. Nothing. And the cameras? They didn't record anything that night. No footage of the second person, no proof. Just the memory of what we saw. By the time our shift ended, none of us felt the same. We were questioned, debriefed, asked to explain something we couldn't explain. And even now, years later, there's one thing that still bothers me the most. Those cameras were high quality, clear enough to see every detail. They could see my face perfectly, every expression, every movement. But the thing standing behind me, they said they couldn't see its face at all. And to this day, no one knows what was really inside that building that night. My cousin doesn't scare easily. She's the kind of person who watches horror movies alone at night and laughs at the parts that are supposed to be scary. So when she told me this story, and I saw the look on her face while she was telling it, I knew something had really shaken her. This happened a few years ago at a house party hosted by one of her close friends. It wasn't a huge party, just a group of people who all kind of knew each other. Some were close friends, some were friends of friends, and a few were people who had only met once or twice before. The kind of party where everyone feels comfortable enough to relax after a few drinks. Music was playing, people were talking loudly, some were in the living room, others in the kitchen. Everything was normal, completely normal. At some point during the night, the conversation turned into that typical party topic. Someone suggested playing a game. Not a board game, not cards, just something to pass the time and have fun. That's when a woman my cousin barely knew spoke up. She said she read tarot cards, and if anyone wanted, she could do a reading for them. Most people laughed it off at first, but the host of the party, my cousin's friend, was curious and agreed to go first. Everyone gathered around the kitchen table where the woman laid out her cards. At first, everything seemed harmless. The woman flipped cards slowly, talking in a calm voice, saying things that sounded like something you'd read in a horoscope. Personality traits, life paths, general advice, nothing too strange. But then, something changed. The woman stopped talking mid-sentence. She was staring at the cards, completely silent. The room got quiet. Someone even laughed a little and asked if she was just trying to build suspense. But the woman didn't react. Then she started talking again. But this time, she wasn't talking about tarot cards anymore. She started talking about the host, not general things, specific things, very personal things, things that no stranger should have known. The more she spoke, the more my cousin's friend's face changed. First confusion, then shock, then anger. She started telling the woman to stop, but the woman kept talking. Her voice sounded different now, colder, almost like she was reading from something she couldn't stop reading. She talked about mistakes, about secrets, about things that had happened years ago. My cousin said the entire kitchen felt different at that moment. Nobody was smiling anymore. Nobody was laughing. It wasn't a game anymore. It felt like something else was happening. Finally, my cousin's friend snapped and started yelling at her to stop talking. She was almost hysterical at this point. And then suddenly, the tarot reader stopped, mid-sentence. She didn't look at anyone. She didn't say anything. She just sat there, staring straight ahead, not moving at all, like a statue, like nobody was home behind her eyes. The room was completely silent now, and then something happened that made everything worse. My cousin's friend left the kitchen and came back a minute later holding a gun. She pointed it directly at the tarot reader and told her to keep talking, to keep revealing secrets, to keep going. But the woman didn't react. She didn't even look at the gun. She just sat there, expressionless. That's when the light started flickering, not turning off completely, just flickering, on, off, slowly. The entire house went quiet again, and then the dog started barking. It was a big Rottweiler, but a very calm and friendly dog. My cousin said she had never seen that dog act aggressive before. But now it was standing in the kitchen, staring down the dark hallway, growling and barking like there was someone there. Everyone looked toward the hallway. The lights were on. There was nothing there. But the dog kept barking, loud, angry, scared, and then my cousin said she saw it. Something moved in the hallway. Not a person, not an animal, a shadow, but not a normal shadow. It was too big, too fast, and it didn't look like it belonged to anything. She said it moved from the hallway, straight past the kitchen, and toward the front door in just a second, like something had just run through the house. No one spoke. No one moved. And then my cousin decided she was leaving. She walked outside, called her husband, and waited on the curb until he came to pick her up. She said she didn't even go back inside to say goodbye. And to this day, she still refuses to talk about what the tarot reader said in that kitchen. But she did say one thing. She said, "Whatever walked out of that hallway that night came when that woman started talking and left when she